achieved.
Welcome back to Kamikaze Overdrive MMA Predictions. As always, I am your host, Scott Johnson. And on this episode of the show, we're breaking in the upcoming UFC Fight Night 63 event, which will take place on April 4th and feature 6 main card fights, which I'll be giving you all my predictions for in this episode of the show. All of my preliminary breakdowns will be available at kamikazeoverdrive.net. Also, kamikazeoverdrive.net, you can check out the bet packs. I'm coming off a pretty good showing. I went 10-2 in the last card. And the bet packs had some winnings, had some good value, but I had one upset fight, Andre Fili losing, which cost me. I went 10-2 in the last show, and that one fight cost me a little bit of extra profit when it comes right down to it, so hopefully we'll rebound here. And now with the bet packs, we have a very busy April, 4 cards in all, so you can buy the bet packs for $10 a piece, or if you want to subscribe to the entire April package, I'm offering all 4 bet packs for $30. So basically it's a 3-for-4 deal. You just buy it, keep logging in the same place, and you can pick up a cheap a slightly better deal for the month. And for busier months, I probably will be offering a deal like that to try and get people an opportunity to save a little bit of money and still invest. Also, you might notice there's some subscription spots on my website. Now, if you're interested in subscribing and supporting KamikazeOverdrive.net, some people have asked in the past how they would just support us through a donation. If you want to subscribe for $1 a month or $2 a month, that's entirely up to you, but by no means do you have to. You're not going to get anything different than I already produce, so if you just want to keep coming back for free, totally cool. I understand that, but some people have asked, so I thought I'd throw this out there, and a couple people have already started, so I greatly appreciate that. Also, the DraftKings competition, the last show, we didn't actually get to run it because we needed 20 players. We only got 18, so we were unable to run the tournament. That's their rules. And it's unfortunate because I entered 2 other tournaments with the same lineup, had a lot of success. I think I turned $10 into 30, so I tripled my money. And did fairly well. I had some high scoring points, so we'll have to see if we can get the 20 for this show. So certainly, if you're interested in playing in the DraftKings competition, it's winner take all. You get $10 to play, $180 to the winner, 20 players, so basically 1 in 20 chance of taking it home. And the way I play, sometimes 1 in 19. Click on the link on my website, follow the instructions from there, and you'll have no problem signing up. That's enough talking for me. We have lots of predictions to get to, so let's get to that opening bout. The first fight of the night takes place in the UFC's lightweight division as Dustin the Diamond Poirier, 16-4-0, longtime staple. The featherweight division moves up to take on Diego Ferreira with a current record of 10 wins and 1 defeat. Now, Poirier is returning to the lightweight division after a very good run as a featherweight. He went 8-3 in the UFC fighting in that weight class, and now he formerly fought in the WC as a lightweight. He went 1-1, losing to Danny Castillo in that run, fighting at 155 pounds. And you have to wonder, is there less of an impact on Poirier cutting down to 145 instead of now cutting down to 155? Will he be faster than most lightweights? There should be some positives and some negatives, so it should be interesting. Physically, both guys same height, 2-inch reach advantage for his opponent in this matchup, so they've matched up fairly well. He's not going to be overwhelmed with the size of his opposition. For Ferreira, he's coming off the first loss of his career, and he started 2-0 in the UFC, and that first loss is a big point in a fighter's career. It offers you an opportunity to rebuild yourself. That invincibility gone. You feel like you need to train to improve and get better now because what you wasn't good enough to get you the win in that last fight. Complacency kind of slips out of your game after you've been defeated once or maybe even twice. We'll see if that is the case here. Now the last fight, his loss, came to he got worn down. He couldn't get his grappling game and dominance on the mat going. And so he did take the fight on short notice, so that's worth keeping in mind. He's a third-degree BJJ black belt. 6 of his wins have come by submission. And he has gone outside of the first round 8 times in his career, winning 4 times by decision, and he also has a 5-rounder. So, as I said, he took the last fight on short notice, so that might have played a big role in why he gassed out and wasn't able to hold up, because his cardio is usually fairly decent. Now, in that fight against Beneil Dariush, he was getting out positioned for the most part on the mat. Sorry, my mouth is not working. For the most part on the mat, and it was really wearing his arms and legs out, all the heavy grappling and defensive grappling he was forced to do. And we're finding out just how good Beneil Dariush is, taking out Darren Cruikshank, and now actually taking a short notice fight against Shamil and getting ready for that matchup. So that, takes a little bit of the sting off that defeat. For Ferreira, he's incredibly active off his back, but again in that fight he wasn't able to offer enough to really reverse the position or pick up the victory from that position. For Dustin Poirier, BJJ brown belt, he has 6 wins by submission. He really likes that Darce choke. He has 2 in the UFC. And he was also subbed by the Korean Zombie with one of his, I think it's his only submission loss. Good opposition player, has some issues, but he has had some issues on the mat. He lost the takedown battle against the Korean Zombie 4-0. Cub Swanson scored a couple of takedowns against him, and so did Castillo KO in his one loss in the WEC. Now, he's going to need to be very careful if the fight does hit the mat against Ferreira, especially if it goes down there early on. On the feet, Poirier has some significant power. We saw him rock and nearly knock out Eric Koch a couple of times. He took out Diego Brandao and Akira Corsani, but he's more of a death by accumulation guy, averaging just under 4.5 strikes landed per minute. So that's pretty significant numbers. Now, he is coming out the first career loss, his first career loss by knockout, and you wonder if that'll affect him at all. The issue here also, moving up to lightweight, how will his power translate against larger opponents? That's a big question mark. I think it'll do just fine, especially if he can put that accumulation on. He has a pretty decent kicking game, and again, he doesn't want to open opportunities for his opponent to take him down. Defensively, he has some issues. He gets hit at an average of 3.16 strikes absorbed per minute, and his opponents have had success outworking him in the past. Ferreira, one win by knockout, which happened to be his last win, taking out Ramsey Nijem, which isn't super impressive considering how porous Nijim's striking defense is. But Ferreira does have power. He's very aggressive. He will try a variety of techniques because he's not afraid of being taken down or taken off his feet. But he can be very reckless at times. He was getting tagged by Nijem a couple of times, who's not the greatest of strikers. Another thing Ferreira tends to do, which I don't really like, is he likes to switch stances a lot to southpaw, which tends to get him hit a lot more, as his defensive game isn't nearly as tight from a position he's not nearly as comfortable with, and he was doing that in his last fight and getting lit up every time he changed, and I think Poirier can take advantage of that. Ramsey Nijem also had some success taking him down and using his top position. I think Poirier could, as I said, take advantage of that in the second half of this fight, especially if he has some success with his hands, but he needs to be very careful early on. I think Poirier should have a speed advantage, and he'll get the better of the striking with superior footwork and overall technique, and my prediction is Dustin Poirier to defeat Diego Ferreira by decision. Those aforementioned featherweights are now on the docket as the number 12th ranked featherweight in the organization. Clay, the Carpenter Guida, 31-12-0, takes on Robbie Problems Peralta, currently holding a record of 18 wins, 5 losses, and a single no contest. Now, both guys are coming off submission losses. Guida so far 2-4 since his upset victory over the former UFC lightweight champion Anthony Pettis. He's moving to a new camp for this fight, leaving Greg Jackson's behind. That leaves a big question mark. Is it good? Is it bad? Only time will tell. For Robbie Peralta, he's 2-2 in his last 4 fights. Could easily be 0-4, though. He won a very close split decision against Hani Jason and won a late stages knockout over Esteban Payan in a fight that he was losing and well on his way to losing a decision if it went the distance. Peralta's coming up the first round submission loss where he was really blown out of the water by Thiago Tavares, who's a former lightweight who just showed where one of the biggest vulnerabilities in his game exists, which is on the mat. Now, looking at their win totals, though, both men have double-digit win totals. Peralta 13-0 in wins in fights ended by knockout, including Esteban Payan, and I think he's got at least 1 or 2 others in the UFC. He averages 4.13 strikes landed per minute, gives up 3.17 strikes absorbed. He's what we call a technical brawler. He likes to close the distance, sling big shots, looking for the big knockout. He also has some very hard leg kicks he likes to implement. Push kick to the midsection, which can be very effective. And it will help him set up his strikes, but sometimes he becomes a bit of a headhunter, and that's where he can, where guys like Payan and Akira Corsani had success kind of diffusing that. For Clay Guida, double-digit wins by both submission and decision, but he also has significant loss totals in those columns. He's 16-8 in fights ended by submission, 11-6 in fights that go the distance. His last 2 losses have come by stoppage, a submission and a knockout, the first knockout of his career, and he is known for having a good chin, but it is maybe deteriorating a little bit, and certainly age is catching up with him, and this guy's been through a lot of wars. We know Clay Guida is that grinding wrestling style fighter who really likes to wear guys down with his pace. He averages 3.53 takedowns and a 38% completion rate. Now, he tries a lot of takedowns, and that is why he has such a low completion rate, because he keeps going and going until it sticks. On the defensive side of things, 69% takedown defense, so he's not an easy guy to put on his mat unless you're like Chad Mendes. As I said, he keeps attacking for takedowns. He had a lot of success out-wrestling Tetsuya Kawajiri, which very few people can say, and he was able to pin Hatsu Aoki on the mat and control him from top position for the most part, which is also a difficult feat. He scores the majority of his takedowns on the cage, which, he keeps his opponent backing up, and it's harder to defend with no room to move your hips. I think this style of approach is going to keep Peralta backing up and, take away some of his power. He's not the Chuck Liddell type who can knock you out while going backwards. Now, for Robbie Peralta, he's a 70% takedown defense, but he has struggled with wrestlers and grapplers. He has 3 losses by submission overall. He struggled tremendously when Esteban Payan took him down. He's lost a takedown battle 7-3 in his last 4 fights and 4-0 in his 2 losses that we just talked about. I think spamming takedowns and a smothering top position of Guida will be very troublesome for Peralta. It will make it difficult for him to find success consistently with his striking. Guida's cardio and pace has been some of his big weapons. Again, has his age started to rob him of those? Maybe a little bit, but again, when you're competing at the top of the division, that could be the case. Peralta, he has struggled with guys who use a lot of footwork and movement. We saw that again with Corisani and Payan. I keep going back to those two fights, but they seem to be good examples of where he has difficulties. Guida is far more erratic than technical, but it still can be effective. And combined with Peralta's defensive wrestling issues, and those are two glaring holes that I think Clay Guida has the ability to exploit. He needs to avoid being stationary, though, to keep Peralta from landing that big shot that can change the fight. The new camp could be very interesting for Clay to see how that affects his game. It could be for the better, it could be for the worse. If he loses, you really wonder how close he is to the end of his career. Either way, I think he's got enough in the tank to win this matchup. So my prediction is Clay Guida to defeat Robbie Peralta by decision. We switch things up for the third bout of the night for the women as the number 13th ranked Julianna, the Venezuelan Pena, 6-2-0, battles Milana Dudieva with a current record of 11 wins and 3 losses. Now, both girls are making their second UFC appearances and coming in off different circumstances. Pena hasn't fought in over 16 months. She's coming off an incredibly devastating set of injuries, but she did have, in her first fight, a dominant Ultimate Fighter win to capture the title there. Her injuries tore her ACL, MCL, and LCL, and meniscus, all very difficult injuries individually. Combine all together, it's very bad. I've injured my knees before, and it's difficult. And mentally, it's hard to get over, despite the fact that you might be fully healed. You're waiting for that next injury to happen, and it could inhibit your ability to fight. Now, Pena, another thing, too, I don't like, she's been talking about Ronda Rousey a little bit in the media, bullying Ronda Rousey around. She needs to focus on getting this win. She's very young in her career. She's got one UFC win under her belt. She could have ring rust here. She needs to focus here and not about other things that are above and beyond her at this point. For Dudieva, she's been out of action for almost 8 months. She's coming off a very controversial debut victory that many felt she lost, so she's looking to kind of silence some of those critics and get a big victory in this matchup. Experience-wise, for Dudieva, 2-1, 14-7 overall, but Pena has that Ultimate Fighter experience to fall back on. She submitted 2 pretty solid veterans in Sarah Moras and Shayna Baszler en route to winning the tournament. And she had to win 4 rounds to win the Ultimate Fighter. Only one of those bouts counts in the record, but still, that's some good experience to have there. Physically, Julianna 3 inches taller and will have a massive 13-inch reach advantage, very long reach advantage. Again, some of the numbers might not always be accurate, but still, even if it's even close to that, it's still a big advantage for her. For Milana, 6 wins by submission. She's also been submitted twice, including by current UFC fighter Jessica Andrade. And also her other submission loss was the first pro bout of her career where she tapped the punches, so really not the typical thing. For Pena, 2 wins by knockout, 3 submissions, including 2+2 on the show, showing how good she is on the ground. She did suffer back-to-back losses before the Ultimate Fighter, including TKO loss to Sarah Moras, which she was able to avenge on the show. The Russian, comes from a grappling background. Sambo and judo, she really likes hip tosses, will look for leg locks. On the feet, she likes to close the distance, tie up, and look to drag her opponent to the mat. She'll start diving on submissions, but the big issue with her is she tends to give up position in an attempt to get a submission. That happened routinely against Phillips, and I felt that was one of the reasons she should have been given the loss in that matchup and not the victory by the judges. On the feet, she's very aggressive but wild. She swings looping punches, looking to close do damage, but at the same time close the distance to set up her grappling game. Now, she doesn't have a great gas tank, and she's only gone beyond the first round once in her first 9 fights. Then, after she started going deeper into fights against higher level competition, she lost back-to-back bouts, and it was evident in the Phillips fight that she was slowing down in the second half. For Pena, she comes from a boxing background, but she's really shown a strong ground game with submissions and ground and pound in her current rise to fame in the UFC. She really likes to bully her opponents around. We saw her close the distance against Jessica Rakoczy in the Ultimate Fighter final, use the clinch, take her down, impose her physical will. She has some nice trips and takedowns, looks to pass on the ground, posture up and do damage, big elbows and punches from top position. She will look for sub attempts. We saw her do that against Rakoczy, and then when Rakoczy went to defend, she immediately slipped into full mount and used that as a distraction and really busted her up from there. Overwhelmed her opponent with top position pace, and the impact and pace are 2 things that are very difficult to deal with. Now, I think ring rust could be a factor for Julianna, but she should have the better gas tank nonetheless, and the size and reach will play a massive role, especially if Dudieva is reckless when she's trying to close that distance. For Dudieva, she needs to catch something early, the submission, or hurt her early on, when the fight, before Pena can really settle in. But I think her tendency to give up position is not a good thing against a strong top player like Pena. I think Pena gets top position, eventually wears her out with ground and pound, and my prediction is Julianna Pena to defeat Milana Dudieva. Could be by submission, but I'll take Pena by TKO. In the lightweight division, another Ultimate Fighter champion, Michael Maverick, Chiesa 11-2-0, battles Mitch Danger Zone Clarke with a record of 11-2-0. Identical record. Didn't realize that at first. Now, it's interesting to note that both of these guys have submitted, and not just submitted, put to sleep Iaquinta when they fought him, who is actually 1 fight above them in the co-main event It was actually Clarke's last fight where he was able to put him to sleep, yet he's getting, a lesser booking. You can clearly tell the UFC would like to see Iaquinta succeed. Both guys also fought Anton Kuivainen. Clarke lost a decision while Chiesa picked up a submission victory. So a couple common opponents. For Clarke, he's riding a bit of an upset run. Back-to-back upset victories to get here, and a lot of people felt he was being fed to Iaquinta in that matchup, and for the most part it looked like he was until he scored a very surprising submission win. If you haven't seen it, go pick it up or go take a look and see what you think. But either way, he's picked up some upset wins. He is the underdog here again in this matchup. In that fight against Al, he attacked with a Kimura off his back, but he was dropped early in that matchup on the ground. He had his guard passed. He was had a lot of trouble controlling his opponent's posture. He did almost nothing until catching a submission off his back. It was really well executed, but still, it was pretty much the only thing he did in that matchup. For Michael Chiesa, when he fought Iaquinta, he was able to work to his back and secure a rear naked choke and lock it up for the victory. They're fairly early in the first round. Now, both men, for the most part, not surprising, are submission-oriented. Chiesa BJJ purple belt, 8 of his 11 wins by submission, 6 by rear naked choke, including Colton Smith, Kuivainen, and the aforementioned Raging Al. For Clarke, 7 of his 11 wins have come by submission. He likes the chokes, guillotine, rear naked, darce, very choke-oriented submission fighter. Clarke, he has struggled, though, overall in the UFC to defend takedowns. 52% takedown defense, which sounds okay, but in 4 fights he's been put on his back 8 times. He's only landed 3 overall, which is kind of troubling for a grappling-based fighter, and they all came in one fight, and it happened to be a loss. Conversely, Chiesa has had a lot of success with his ground game and really bringing it to bear. 2.44 takedowns at 30%. Not like huge numbers, but he showed a crushing top game against Francisco Trinaldo, where he was able to mount him. He was just like a building sitting on top of Trinaldo's chest. He took Jorge Masvidal down twice, which is considerable considering how good his defensive game is. He has a strong top game, very active, both advancing and looking to open up spots with ground and pound. I'd like to see him land more takedowns with consistency, but he does a lot with what he's able to score, and that's why he's so effective. Where Chiesa has success, he gets takedowns by closing the distance, clinching up, and dragging his opponent to the mat. He will rotate the back while they're standing, which is something that can open up some submission opportunities and force his opponent to be very focused on multiple things when they are attacking or engaging. And Clarke has had trouble maintaining separation in his fights, and that's going to be an area I think he's going to have some issues with here. For Chiesa, he showed improving striking. He dropped Masvidal, and he's in a lot of his fights he tends to be the busier guy on the feet. For Clarke, his striking looked better against John Maguire, but that doesn't say a heck of a lot, and he was simply out of his depth on the feet against Iaquinta when they were exchanging. He's been outworked statistically in 3 of his 4 fights by a total of 97-31, which are some pretty negative numbers. He is, if the fight goes to the mat, Clarke is active off his back, but if he spends too much time there against Chiesa, he's either going to get submitted or simply, ground down into oblivion. He was getting beaten up by Al in the same position. I see something similar here. Chiesa, he's looking to rebound after a TKO loss via cut and doctor stoppage, so he's going to be motivated here because he was pretty pissed off about that matchup. I think he's going to have success on the feet, take the bout to the mat at will, and control, from top position. I think he breaks Mitch Clarke down, eventually forces him to give up position, maybe roll over, give up his back, and my prediction is Michael Chiesa to defeat Mitch Clarke. I'll take Chiesa by submission. In the co-main event of the evening, we're in the UFC's lightweight division. It's the number 14th ranked Jorge Gamebred Masvidal, 28-8-0, takes on the number 15th ranked Al Raging Iaquinta, or Raging Al Iaquinta, I guess was more appropriate. He currently holds a record of 11-3-1. Now, Masvidal was initially booked to face Bobby Green in this matchup, and then Al Iaquinta stepped up when Green pulled out, and Masvidal stated he really didn't feel, I can't remember, I'm paraphrasing here, he didn't feel Al Iaquinta was worthy of this fight, and that he was, fighting a guy who was a significant step down, which in the rankings maybe be the case, but still do not overlook a guy like Al Iaquinta. Masvidal, 3 wins in a row coming into this, 5-1 in the UFC, 3-1 in Strikeforce, fought for the title in that organization. He's putting a pretty good run together of late. For Iaquinta, though, 3 wins in a row, also 6-2 in the UFC. He does have those 2 losses both by submission, and he lost the Ultimate Fighter finals, as we also talked about. So both guys have put together some pretty good runs and are currently riding significant winning streaks. Also for Al, 3 straight wins by knockout compared to 3 straight wins by decision for Masvidal. So Al's really getting his opponents out of there. Masvidal's outclassing them and getting the nod from the judges. A couple common opponents involved here. Masvidal submitted Michael Chiesa, we just talked about. We just also talked about how Al Iaquinta fared against him. Also, when they fought Rodrigo Dam, definitely 2 different worlds when they fought here. Iaquinta recently knocking out Dam while Masvidal got KO'd by Rodrigo, but that came way back in 2008, so certainly not the same scenario. Masvidal, physically 2-inch taller, will have a 4-inch reach advantage as well. Now, both guys have good KO numbers. Al, 6 wins by knockout, Masvidal 10. Al's also 4-0 decisions, while Masvidal 16-5 when the fight goes the distance. In the other category, both guys have very minimal submission numbers, but that's not actually telling of their capabilities, or at least one of theirs. Masvidal is 2-2 when the fight hits the mat, when the fight's ended by submission. Iaquinta 1-3. Masvidal, we saw him submit Michael Chiesa. He does have 2 submission losses that both came fairly early in his career. He has a very good submission game, and that's something I'll talk about more in a minute. For Iaquinta, again, we'll talk about his problems on the mat as well. If this fight stays on the feet, which it very well could, I expect to see a little bit of both. Both guys are incredibly good strikers. Has the edge in strikes landed per minute, 5.14 to 3.92. But Masvidal defensively is a little bit stronger. About 0.6 less strikes absorbed per minute than what Iaquinta gives up. Striking defense also favors Masvidal percentage-wise as well. For Jorge, he has an excellent jab, good kicking game, slick combinations. He's very accurate, and he manages distance exceptionally well, both when attacking and defending. For Iaquinta, solid combinations in his own right. He can really string them together with some serious pop we find behind them. We saw that with what he was able to put on Joe Lozon, especially before bringing in the end. Not a big kicking game, but he will use them when appropriate. For Jorge, he can at times be a little bit too inactive, and for Iaquinta, at times he can be a little bit too aggressive. So those are interesting dynamics. We'll see how they compare in this fight. Both guys are capable of competing on the mat, and both have very good takedown defense if the fight does hit there. I said we're going to go back to the ground game. Takedown defense, 80% range for both guys. Masvidal's more likely to look for the takedown, 2.62 takedowns at a 65% completion rate. He has used his wrestling effectively against guys like Darren Cruikshank, James Krause, and most notably Tim Means, where he scored 6 takedowns and back in Strikeforce when he beat KJ Noons and took him down 7 times. Iaquinta has had some struggles on the floor. He gave up 3 takedowns against Piotr Hallman, spent some time on his back against Kevin Lee. The submission fight are certainly concerning, 3 now on his career, and that's something I think Masvidal will look to exploit. Jorge does an excellent job of transitioning between his wrestling and his striking, and I think Iaquinta's submission issues are a major concern. I think he'll keep that in his mind every time he's fighting, or every time this fight hits the mat. For Masvidal, he uses his footwork and counters, I think, in this fight to deflate the aggression of his opponent. Jab, 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 keep him on the outside, use that reach. I think he outlands him. I think he mixes in his wrestling effectively. The takedowns will keep Al from, being too aggressive. And my prediction, while Masvidal is a bit of a slow starter, my prediction is Jorge Masvidal to defeat Iaquinta by decision. In the main event of the evening, we're in the UFC's featherweight division in a very significant fight as far as the rankings are concerned. The number 1 ranked Chad Money Mendes, 16-2-0, battles the number 4th ranked Ricardo the Bully Lamas, currently holding a record of 15 wins and 3 losses. Now, these two guys are combined 0-3 versus Jose Aldo. They've both had multiple cracks, or at least Mendes had 2 cracks. Lamas had 1 crack at taking the title. Most likely Mendes is going to have to put something significant together to get a 3rd shot. For Ricardo Lamas, if he wants to get another one, he has to go on a significant run, starting here with Mendes, or continue with Mendes. He's already on a bit of a run. Both guys recognize that if Conor wins the title in their upcoming fight, there's probably going to be a rematch between him and Aldo. If he comes out of those 2 fights with the title still around his waist, the winner of this fight could very well get a shot at the championship, or be right up there with Frankie Edgar getting an opportunity to fight for the title. So that's significant, will be in the back of both these guys' minds coming into this. So this certainly isn't just a going through the motions bout by any stretch of the imagination. Now Mendes is coming off another loss against Aldo, but arguably it was the best performance by anyone against Jose in the WEC or UFC, and it's certainly noteworthy that he is catching up to the champion. For Lamas, he's 2-0 in his last 2 fights since losing his title shot. And he's got 2 solid wins, which are pretty impressive. And he's 6-1 in the UFC. So the guys put together a nice little run here. For Mendes, he's strung together 5 straight wins after the first Aldo loss. And the question is, can he get it going again? Or is there a little bit of that title fight letdown that he could experience, knowing that he is pretty far away from getting a shot despite being ranked number 1? Physically, Lamas is 2 inches taller and will have a 5-inch reach advantage, but we know, Mendes is a compact fighter, incredibly physically well built and very strong. Now, both guys come from strong, significant wrestling backgrounds. Mendes is a Division I wrestler, Lamas Division III. Also, Ricardo's a BJJ black belt. The submission edge goes to Ricardo at 4 submission wins to 2, but the wrestling statistics all favor Chad Mendes, which is not shocking coming out of the alpha male camp. 4.18 takedowns compared to just 1.72 for Ricardo. He has about a 20% higher completion rate, and Mendes 100% takedown defense versus 48% takedown defense for Lamas. So everything favoring Chad Mendes there. And for the most part, Mendes has taken down pretty much anyone he wanted to try, that he tried against with the exception of Aldo in the first fight. He managed to take Aldo off his feet one time on 8 attempts in the second fight. But against good wrestlers, guys like Nick Lentz and Clay Guida had a lot of success taking them down. Conversely, we've seen Ricardo Lamas. He's been taken down several times in matchups. Hawker Diaz took him down twice. Aldo took him down twice. And Hatsuo Aoki had a lot of success putting him on his back, scoring a 4-pack of takedowns in that matchup. So all indications are, for what I've seen, that Mendes will have the advantage in the wrestling if he opts to use it. Lamas is pretty decent off his back and was able to reverse Aoki. He has 3 of his 4 wins by guillotine. He likes that side choke as well, which he caught Cub Swanson with, but I just don't see him having a lot of success if Mendes gets on top, and he's not going to choke out Chad Mendes. First of all, because Mendes has a very compact and thick neck, and additionally, the alpha male, the guillotine choke is their signature, so they're definitely used to trying to fend that off. For Mendes, grinding top control, pins guys down, wears them out, busts them up with his top position strikes. He's very effective from that position and can do a lot of damage. For Ricardo Lamas, he has to try and find success on the feet. He does have 4 wins by knockout. He's also been stopped twice. Mendes, though, 6 wins by KO. Just the 1 loss to Jose Aldo. 4 of his last 5 wins have actually come by knockout as well. Some against lower level competition, but the point is his striking has improved. Both because they have very statistically similar striking numbers. Mendes likes that tight, compact game. He's working the leg kicks, really goes to the body nicely. For Lamas, he's used that speed and footwork. Play the matador. Keep Mendes coming forward. Counter. Don't let him be too aggressive. Change gears. Be effective with your strikes. Go low with your leg kicks when possible. Don't leave anything hanging out that Mendes can jump on. But I'm looking for Mendes to have a lot of success with his wrestling here. Keep Lamas on his back foot, both when he's striking and trying to defend takedowns. For Ricardo Lamas, he has a far better chance than the odds suggest. He's been pulling off upsets of late and knocking guys off that he wasn't expected to. But he's going to have moments in this fight, but he's just not enough. I think I think Mendes puts it together, continues to show why he's basically the second best featherweight on the planet. And my prediction is Chad Money Mendes to defeat Ricardo Lamas. It'll be a good scrap, but I've got Mendes winning it by decision. So those are my 6 main card predictions for the UFC Fight Night 63 event. My preliminary predictions, as always, at kamikazeoverdrive.net. The DraftKings competition, please come out and sign up. Really look forward to playing in that. Hopefully we can get the 20 we need this time. I plan on taking it down, but as always, I will most likely finish somewhere in the bottom 4 spots. Also, if you're interested in buying the bet pack, and if you're considering buying one of them for this month or even 2 for this month, maybe go all in. Get the 4-pack for $30, save $10, and see if we can come away. I've won money on each of my last 4 of my last 5 bet packs, which is a pretty good run. And if you were along for the ride, you'd definitely be up by I think a couple $1,000 actually when you look at the big numbers in the grand scheme of things. I'll have to check my records. Either way, if you're interested in doing that, that's fantastic. Also, the donations, no pressure there, but if you want to subscribe, quote-unquote, for $1 or $2 a month, it would be greatly appreciated. But again, if not, keep coming back to my website, as I fully like kicking out all this material for you guys. Either way, thanks for tuning in. We have a very busy April, and again, I'm working on that way to finish my show off with a catchy phrase to say see you later, but for now, I'll talk to you on the next prediction show. Bye.